Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his face as he worked under the hot sun of New Colorado. The mining planet was not pretty, but it was home now. Red dust covered everything, and the air tasted like metal. Jake did not mind. He had been fixing broken machines for 10 years on this planet. The terraforming equipment needed constant repairs, and Jake was the best at making old things work again. The morning started like any other day. Jake was fixing a water pump when his friend Pete Johnson came running over. Pete ran the whole colony and never looked worried. Today was different. His face was pale and his hands shook. "Jake, you need to come to the landing pad right now," Pete said. "The Zephyrians are here." Jake put down his tools. The Zephyrians were aliens who lived on nearby planets. They had crystal skin that glowed and could talk to each other with their minds. They thought humans were stupid and dirty. The Zephyrians never visited unless they wanted something. "What do they want?" Jake asked. "I don't know, but they asked for you by name." Jake walked to the landing pad with Pete. Other colonists followed them. Dr. Lisa Carter, who took care of sick people, walked beside them. Carlos Martinez, who fixed the big machines, came too. Everyone looked scared. The Zephyrian ship was beautiful. It looked like it was made of silver glass and made no sound when it landed. The ship was much better than anything humans could build. Jake felt small when he looked at it. 5 Zephyrians came out of the ship. Their crystal skin caught the sunlight and made rainbow colors. The leader was tall and had deep blue crystals growing from his head. His name was Veltar, and he was very important among his people. "Humans," Veltar said. His voice sounded like music, but cold music. "We have come with a gift." The other colonists moved closer to Jake. They all knew that gifts from Zephyrians were never good things. "We do not need gifts," Pete said. He tried to sound brave, but his voice shook. Veltar smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "This gift is special. We have heard that humans like to fix broken things. You claim your kind can repair what others cannot." 2 other Zephyrians brought something from their ship. At first, Jake thought it was a pile of dirty rags. Then he saw it was a person. A female Zephyrian, but she looked nothing like the others. Her crystal skin was broken in many places. Instead of bright rainbow colors, her skin was gray and dull. Some crystals were missing completely, leaving ugly scars. She could barely walk and kept her head down. Jake could see that she was in pain. "This is Lyra," Veltar said. "She was once useful to our people. She made beautiful art and helped build our ships. Then there was an accident in the crystal mines. Now she is broken. Her mind powers are gone. Her crystals will not grow back. She is useless." The broken Zephyrian named Lyra did not look up. She just stood there, shaking slightly. "Among our people she is ruined," another Zephyrian said. His name was Zixneth, and he sounded even colder than Veltar. "She cannot work. She cannot make art. She cannot even speak properly to other Zephyrians. She is nothing." Jake felt angry. The way they talked about Lyra made his stomach hurt. She was a person, not a broken machine. "So we bring her to you," Veltar continued. "You humans say you can fix anything. Prove it. Fix our ruined woman. Make her useful again." "And if we cannot?" Pete asked. "Then you will admit that humans are weak and stupid. You will leave this planet and never return to Zephyrian space." Jake looked at Lyra. She was trying not to cry, but he could see tears on her gray cheeks. The other Zephyrians looked at her like she was garbage. They had brought her here to fail. They wanted to prove that humans were worthless. "This is not right," Dr. Lisa Carter said. "She is a person, not a test." "She is broken," Zixneth replied. "Broken things have no worth." Jake stepped forward. He looked at Lyra's damaged face and broken crystals. He had fixed many broken things in his life. Machines, computers, even buildings. But this was different. This was a living person who had been hurt and thrown away. "I will try," Jake said quietly. The other colonists looked shocked. Pete grabbed Jake's arm. "Jake, this is a trap," Pete whispered. "They want us to fail." Jake knew Pete was right, but he also knew he could not walk away. Lyra needed help, and no one else would give it to her. I will try, Jake said again, louder this time. Veltar's smile grew bigger. Excellent, you have 1 month, human. Fix her or lose everything. The Zephyrians left Lyra standing alone on the landing pad. Their ship took off without a sound, leaving only red dust in the air. Jake walked over to Lyra. She was still looking at the ground. He could see how much pain she was in. Her broken crystals made her whole body hurt. Hello? Jake said softly. My name is Jake. I am going to help you. Lyra looked up for the first time. Her eyes were purple and full of sadness. She tried to say something but only made a small sound. It is okay, Jake said. You do not have to talk now. Let us get you somewhere safe. Dr. Carter came over and looked at Lyra's injuries. These crystal formations are completely damaged, she said quietly to Jake. I have never seen anything like this. I do not know how to help her. We will figure it out, Jake said. He always said that when things looked impossible. They took Lyra to a small building near the edge of the colony. It had a bed, a table, and a window that looked out at the Red Mountains. Jake made sure she had water and food. Why are you helping me? Lyra asked. Her voice was very quiet and broken. Because everyone deserves help, Jake said. And because you are not really broken. You are just hurt. Lyra looked confused. My people say I am ruined. They say I am worth nothing. Jake sat down in a chair near her bed. Your people are wrong. Being hurt does not make you worthless. It just means you need time to heal. For the first time since the Zephyrians left, Lyra almost smiled. It was just a tiny smile, but Jake saw it. That night, Jake sat in his workshop and thought about the challenge. He had 1 month to help Lyra heal. The Zephyrians expected him to fail. They thought humans were too stupid to understand their technology. Maybe they were right about the technology. Jake did not understand crystal healing or mind powers, but he understood something else. He understood that every person had value even when they were hurt. Jake looked out his window at Lyra's building. A small light was on inside. He wondered if she was sleeping or if the pain kept her awake. Tomorrow he would start learning everything he could about Zephyrian crystal biology. He would study their technology and their medicine. But most importantly, he would listen to Lyra and learn what she needed. The Zephyrians had given him a challenge. They wanted to prove that humans were weak. But Jake had a different plan. He was going to prove that humans understood something the Zephyrians had forgotten. Everyone deserved a chance to heal. Jake woke up early the next morning. He had not slept well. All night he thought about Lyra and the challenge from the Zephyrians. 1 month seemed like a very short time to help someone heal from such terrible injuries. He made coffee and walked to Lyra's building. The door was locked, but he could hear movement inside. Jake knocked gently. Lyra, it is Jake. May I come in? There was no answer. Jake waited and knocked again. I brought breakfast, he said. After a long moment, the door opened. Lyra stood there looking even worse than yesterday. Her gray skin looked sick, and her purple eyes were red from crying. I am not hungry, she said in her broken voice. That is okay. But you still need to eat to get better. Jake came inside and put the food on the table. Lyra sat on her bed and watched him with suspicious eyes. Why do you really want to help me? She asked. Jake thought about the question. Because it is the right thing to do. My own people threw me away. Why would a human care? Jake sat down across from her. Maybe because we are different from your people. Lyra made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it was full of pain. Humans are supposed to be stupid and cruel. That is what we always believed. What do you believe now? Lyra was quiet for a long time, then she said, I do not know what to believe anymore. Jake left the food and went to find Dr. Carter. He found her in the medical building reading about Zephyrian biology on her computer. I have been studying all night, Lisa said. Jake, this is worse than I thought. Lyra's crystal matrix is not just broken. It is fighting itself. What does that mean? Lisa showed him pictures on her screen. See these dark spots in her crystal formations? That is like an infection, but not exactly. The crystals are trying to regrow, but they keep breaking down. It must be incredibly painful. Jake looked at the medical scans. Even to his untrained eyes, he could see that something was very wrong. The crystals looked chaotic and random, instead of the beautiful patterns he had seen on healthy Zephyrians. Can you fix it? Jake asked. I do not think so. This kind of damage needs Zephyrian medical technology, but if their doctors could fix it, they would not have given up on her. Jake frowned. Maybe they gave up too quickly. That afternoon, Jake went back to see Lyra. She had eaten some of the food, which made him happy, but she was sitting by the window staring out at nothing. Lyra, can you tell me about the accident? She did not answer for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was very quiet. I was working in the deep crystal mines. We were harvesting singing crystals for a new art project. The mine wall collapsed. Jake waited for her to continue. 3 other workers died immediately. I was trapped under heavy crystal formations for 6 hours. When they found me, my biomatrix was completely disrupted. The doctor said my telepathic centers were destroyed. What were you before the accident? For the first time, Lyra's face showed something other than pain. I was an artist. I made crystal songs that could make people feel joy or peace. I also helped design new ship components. What are crystal songs? Lyra tried to explain, but it was difficult. Imagine if music could be made of light and thought instead of sound. Crystal songs reach directly into the mind and create emotions. Jake was fascinated. Can you still make them? Lyra's face fell. No. I cannot connect to the crystals anymore. I cannot even sense what other Zephyrians are thinking. I am completely alone in my own mind. Jake began to understand why the Zephyrians had given up on her. For a telepathic species, being unable to connect with others must be like being blind and deaf at the same time. Over the next few days, Jake spent hours with Lyra. He brought her meals and sat with her while she ate. Slowly, she began to trust him enough to talk. She told him about her life before the accident. She had been respected among her people. Her crystal songs were played in important ceremonies. Young Zephyrians came to learn from her. Now, I am nothing, she said. Even if the pain stopped, I could never be useful again. Useful to who? Jake asked. To anyone. I cannot make art. I cannot work. I cannot even communicate properly with my own species. Jake thought about this. Maybe being useful is not the most important thing. Lyra looked confused. What else is there? Being yourself. Being alive. Being happy. Those are human ideas, Lyra said. Zephyrians must contribute to society to have worth. Jake shook his head. That is wrong. Every person has worth just because they exist. Meanwhile, Jake was learning everything he could about Zephyrian technology. He read scientific papers and studied the few crystal samples the colony had. Carlos Martinez helped him understand the technical details. These crystals are alive, Carlos explained. They grow like plants, but they also conduct energy like metal. The Zephyrians use them for everything: computers, communication, art, even medicine. What happens when they break? Usually they can regrow if the base matrix is intact. But if the matrix is damaged, Carlos shrugged. The Zephyrians just replace them. They replace the crystals or the person? Both, I think. Jake felt sick. No wonder the Zephyrians had given up on Lyra. In their society, damaged people were just thrown away. On the 5th day, Jake made a breakthrough. He was studying human materials science when he noticed something interesting. Human technology had developed very differently from Zephyrian technology. Where Zephyrians used perfect crystals, humans used metals and composites that could bend without breaking. Where Zephyrians needed flawless connections, humans built systems that could work even when parts failed. Lisa, Jake said, running to the medical building. What if we are thinking about this wrong? What do you mean? The Zephyrians are trying to fix Lyra's crystals perfectly. But what if we do not try to make them perfect? What if we just help them work again? Lisa looked interested. Like a prosthetic limb? Exactly. We cannot give someone back their original arm, but we can give them something that does the same job. That evening, Jake sat with Lyra and explained his idea. I do not understand, she said. You want to put human technology inside me? Not inside you, connected to you. We could build bridges across the damaged areas of your crystal matrix. Lyra looked frightened. That sounds dangerous. It might be, but doing nothing is also dangerous. Your crystals are getting worse every day. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, My people would say I am already ruined. I suppose I cannot become more ruined. You are not ruined, Jake said firmly. You are hurt. There is a difference. What if your idea does not work? Jake was honest. Then we try something else, and if that does not work, we try again. Why would you keep trying? Because you are worth trying for. Lyra looked at him with her purple eyes. For the first time since she arrived, Jake saw a tiny bit of hope in them. When do we start? She asked. Jake smiled. Tomorrow. But first I need to learn more about how your mind worked before the accident. Can you teach me about crystal songs? Lyra nodded slowly. I can try, but it will be difficult to explain without being able to show you. That is okay. We have time. As Jake walked back to his workshop that night, he felt more hopeful than he had in days. He still did not know if his idea would work, but at least now he had a plan. More importantly, Lyra was starting to believe that she might be worth saving. That was the first step toward healing. Jake spent the next week learning about crystal songs from Lyra. Even though she could not make them anymore, she remembered how they worked. She described how her mind used to connect with the crystals, sending thoughts and emotions through them like electricity through wires. It was like singing, but with your whole mind, Lyra explained. The crystals would pick up my thoughts and turn them into patterns of light and feeling. Jake tried to understand. So your thoughts became music that other people could feel? Yes, exactly. Happy crystal songs could make people laugh. Sad ones could make them cry. The most skilled artists could make songs that help people remember lost loved ones or feel brave in dangerous times. That sounds beautiful. Lyra's face became sad again. It was. Now I can barely think properly, let alone create art. Jake had been working with Carlos and Dr. Carter to design a solution. They called it a neural bridge, a device that could connect to Lyra's damaged crystal matrix and help the broken pieces communicate with each other. Think of it like a radio, Carlos explained to Lyra. When your crystal formations are too damaged to send signals, our device will pick up the weak signals and make them stronger. Will it hurt? Lyra asked. We do not know, Dr. Carter admitted. We have never tried anything like this before. Jake saw the fear in Lyra's eyes. We can stop any time you want, he promised. If it hurts too much or feels wrong, we will try a different approach. Lyra thought about it for a long time. When I was trapped in the mine, I thought I was going to die. Then I thought death might be better than living as a broken person. But you have shown me that maybe there is another choice. There is always another choice, Jake said. The first test was simple. They built a small device that could detect the electrical activity in Lyra's crystal formations. When they attached it to her arm, the readings on their computer showed chaos, random signals firing in all directions. This is what pain looks like, Dr. Carter said, pointing at the screen. Her crystals are trying to communicate, but the signals are getting scrambled. Jake adjusted the device. Slowly, the chaotic patterns began to settle into something more organized. How does that feel? He asked Lyra. Strange, she said. The constant noise in my head is quieter. It was a small victory, but it gave them hope. Word of their work spread through the colony. Some people were excited and wanted to help. Others were worried. What if this makes the Zephyrians angry? Asked Sam Brooks, who worked with metals and materials. What if they think we are doing something wrong to her? They already think we will fail, Jake replied. We might as well try our best. Amy Foster, who worked with computer systems, had a different concern. What if we succeed too well? What if the Zephyrians decide they want our technology? Pete Johnson called a meeting with all the senior colonists. Jake, I support what you are doing for Lyra, but we need to think about the whole colony. If this goes wrong, we could all lose our homes. Jake understood their fears, but he also knew he could not stop now. Lyra is not just a political problem, he said. She is a person who needs help. We cannot abandon her because we are scared. But the risk. Pete started. The risk is worth it, Jake interrupted. If we can help her, maybe we can help others. Too. Maybe we can show the galaxy that humans have something valuable to offer. Meanwhile, Jake's relationship with Lyra was changing. She was no longer the broken, hopeless person who had been dumped on their planet. She was becoming a friend. In the evenings, after working on the Neural Bridge project, they would sit together and talk. Lyra taught Jake about Zephyrian culture and history. Jake told her about human exploration and the colonies scattered across space. Humans are very different from what we were taught, Lyra said one night. We were told you were violent and selfish. Some humans are, Jake admitted, but not all of us. Zephyrians believe that imperfection must be eliminated. That is why they threw me away, but you seem to think imperfection can be useful. Jake thought about how to explain it. Humans learn to survive by adapting. When we face problems, we do not always try to eliminate them. Sometimes we learn to work with them. Like working with my damaged crystals instead of trying to make them perfect again? Exactly. After 2 weeks of testing, they were ready to try the full neural bridge system. The device was more complex now, a network of small connectors that would attach to multiple points on Lyra's crystal formations. Are you ready? Jake asked. Lyra nodded, but he could see she was frightened. What if I lose what little ability I have left? Then we will find another way to help you, Jake promised. Dr. Carter carefully attached the connectors to Lyra's skin. The crystal formations there were gray and cracked, but they still conducted small amounts of energy. Activating the bridge, Carlos said. At first, nothing happened. Then Lyra gasped. I can feel something, she whispered. On the computer screen, they could see the chaotic brain patterns beginning to organize. The random electrical noise was being filtered and amplified by the human technology. How do you feel? Dr. Carter asked. Different, clearer, like I have been trying to see through dirty water, and now the water is clean. Jake watched the readings on the screen. The neural bridge was working better than they had hoped. But the real test would be whether Lyra could use her recovered abilities. Try to sense our emotions, Jake suggested. Do not worry if it does not work. Lyra closed her eyes and concentrated. After a moment, she opened them with surprise. You are excited and nervous at the same time. Dr. Carter is proud, but worried. Carlos is amazed. They were all amazed. For the first time since her accident, Lyra could use her telepathic abilities. But the biggest surprise came next. Lyra looked at a small crystal on the table, one of the samples they had been using for research. As she focused on it, the crystal began to glow softly. I can feel it, she said with wonder. I can connect to the crystal. The glow grew brighter and began to pulse in a steady rhythm. It was not the complex crystal song that Lyra used to create, but it was beautiful in its simplicity. You did it, Jake said. You are making crystal music again. Tears ran down Lyra's face, but for the first time since Jake had known her, they were happy tears. It is not the same as before, she said. It is simpler, more basic, but it is real. Over the next few days, Lyra experimented with her restored abilities. The neural bridge allowed her to do things she had never been able to do before. She could sense human emotions almost as clearly as Zephyrian ones. She could make crystals respond in new ways, creating patterns that combined the structure of Zephyrian art with the flexibility of human technology. I am not the same person I was before the accident, Lyra told Jake. But maybe that is not a bad thing. Different does not mean worse, Jake agreed. The Zephyrians taught us that change was dangerous, that tradition and perfection were the most important things. But you have shown me that change can be growth. Jake smiled. That might be the most human thing anyone has ever said. Unknown to them, Zephyrian ships had been monitoring the colony from a distance. The reports going back to their leaders were confusing and disturbing. The humans were not failing as expected. In fact, they seemed to be succeeding in ways that Zephyrian science could not explain. High Crystal Arc Veltar called an emergency council meeting. How is this possible, he demanded. The human primitives cannot have repaired what our best healers declared beyond hope. Perhaps, suggested a younger council member named Quendal, we should investigate their methods. Their methods are irrelevant, Veltar replied angrily. They will fail. They must fail. But privately, Veltar was beginning to worry. If the humans succeeded in healing Lyra, it would prove that Zephyrian science was not as advanced as they believed. Worse, it might prove that their entire philosophy about perfection and worth was wrong. On New Colorado, Jake and Lyra continued their work together, unaware of the political storm building around them. They were focused on something more important, proving that every person deserved a chance to heal and grow no matter how broken they seemed to be. 3 weeks had passed since Jake first started helping Lyra. The neural bridge system was working better than anyone had expected. But the real changes went far beyond the technology. Lyra's crystal formations had begun to regrow, but not in their original patterns. The new crystals were different. They had the geometric precision of traditional Zephyrian work, but they also had flowing organic curves that looked almost human in design. Look at this, Dr. Carter said, showing Jake the latest medical scans. Her crystal matrix is not just healing, it is evolving. The new crystal patterns were stronger than the original ones. They could handle more energy and were less likely to break under stress. The neural bridge had taught her damaged biology how to rebuild itself in a better way. I feel stronger than I ever did before, Lyra told Jake as they walked through the colony. Many of the colonists had gotten used to seeing her around. Children were especially curious about her glowing skin and the way she could make small objects float with her mind. What is different? Jake asked. Before the accident, my abilities were limited by traditional Zephyrian patterns. I could only create crystal songs in the approved styles. Now, with the neural bridge helping me, I can create entirely new forms. To demonstrate, Lyra focused on a nearby water fountain. The water began to glow with soft blue light and rise into complex shapes in the air. The colonists stopped to watch as she made the water dance like liquid sculpture. That is beautiful, said Amy Foster, who had helped design the computer systems for the neural bridge. I have never seen anything like it. Neither have I, Lyra admitted. This is not possible with traditional Zephyrian techniques. The neural bridge allows me to blend human and Zephyrian approaches. Jake felt proud but also worried. Their success was attracting attention. Ships had been spotted at the edge of the solar system. The Zephyrians were watching. Do you think they will be angry? Lyra asked when Jake told her about the ships. I think they will be surprised, Jake said carefully. That evening, Lyra created her first true hybrid crystal song. She had set up a small crystal formation in the colony's central plaza. As the sun went down, she began to work. The crystals started to glow with traditional Zephyrian patterns, flowing geometric shapes that pulsed with mathematical precision. But then, something new happened. The patterns began to change, incorporating elements that no Zephyrian had ever seen. Human-inspired curves blended with crystalline angles. The rigid structure of Zephyrian art mixed with the organic creativity of human music. The result was something that belonged to neither species, but somehow represented both. The colonists gathered to watch. Even people who had been skeptical of the project stood in amazement as Lyra's hybrid crystal song filled the plaza with light and emotion. How does it make you feel? Jake asked a nearby worker. Like home, the man said. But also like adventure, like being safe and excited at the same time. That was exactly what Lyra had intended. She was creating art that could speak to both human and Zephyrian emotions. This is impossible, whispered Carlos Martinez. How can crystal music affect humans? We do not have telepathic abilities. The neural bridge does not just help me connect to crystals, Lyra explained. It helps me understand how human minds work. Your emotions create electrical patterns just like ours do. I can reach those patterns through the crystals. Word of Lyra's crystal song spread quickly. Within days, ships from several different species had arrived to witness what they were calling the hybrid phenomenon. The first to arrive were the Altarians, a peaceful trading species. Their ambassador, a tall being with silver skin, met with Pete Johnson. We have heard remarkable reports, the ambassador said. Is it true that a damaged Zephyrian has been restored using human technology? More than restored, Pete replied, proudly. She has been improved. Next came representatives from the Calarian Federation. They were scientists who studied technological development across the galaxy. We must document this, their lead researcher insisted. If humans have developed a way to enhance biological systems, it could revolutionize medicine throughout the galaxy. Jake was uncomfortable with all the attention. Lyra is not a science experiment, he told the visiting researchers. She is a person. Of course, the Calarian researcher replied, but surely you understand the implications of your work. You have achieved something that was thought impossible. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian observation ships moved closer to the planet. High Crystallarch Veltar himself had come to see what was happening. This is a disaster, he told his council. The inferior humans have not only repaired our discarded citizen, they have somehow made her better than she was before. Perhaps we should study their methods, suggested Quendal. Their methods are primitive and dangerous, Veltar snapped. They have contaminated Lyra with their crude technology. She is no longer truly Zephyrian. But she is healthier and more capable than ever, Quendal pointed out. Veltar did not want to hear that. The success of the humans threatened everything the Zephyrians believed about their own superiority. On the planet's surface, Jake and Lyra continued their work together. But now they had a new goal. Other damaged individuals from various species had begun arriving, hoping for similar help. There was Kex, an Altarian whose silver skin had been poisoned by industrial chemicals. His own people had no way to heal him. There was Thorin, a Calarian whose cybernetic implants had malfunctioned, leaving him partially paralyzed. There was even another Zephyrian named Zara, who had been born with defective crystal formations, and had lived her whole life as an outcast. We cannot help them all, Dr. Carter worried. Each species is completely different. The neural bridge worked for Lyra because we had time to study Zephyrian biology. Then we learn about other biologies. Jake replied. We adapt. Jake, this is getting too big, Pete Johnson said. We are a small mining colony. We do not have the resources to become a galactic medical center. But Jake was determined. With Lyra's help, he began studying the new arrivals. Each case was unique, but they all shared one thing. They had been given up on by their own people. This is what humans do differently, Lyra observed as they worked on Kex's case. Other species try to prevent problems or eliminate them. Humans try to solve them. The breakthrough came when Lyra realized that her enhanced abilities could help diagnose problems in other species. The neural bridge had given her new ways of sensing biological systems. Kex's silver skin is not just poisoned, she told Jake, after examining the Altarian. It is trying to evolve to resist the poison. His body knows how to heal itself, but the process is being blocked. Working together, they developed a new approach. Instead of trying to remove the poison, they helped Kex's body complete its evolutionary response. Within days, his silver skin had developed a natural immunity to the industrial chemicals. Similar successes followed with the other patients. Each time, the solution came from understanding what the person's body was already trying to do, then finding ways to help the natural healing process. You are not just fixing damage, observed the Calarian researcher. You are helping people evolve. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe we are just helping them become who they were always meant to be. As word of their success spread, more and more beings arrived seeking help. The small mining colony was becoming something unprecedented, a place where the damaged and discarded could find new hope. But the growing attention also brought danger. The Zephyrian fleet was now in orbit around the planet, and High Crystallarch Veltar was demanding a meeting. He wants to see Lyra, Pete told Jake. He claims the right to inspect what has been done to a Zephyrian citizen. Jake looked at Lyra, who had been listening to the conversation. What do you want to do? Lyra's purple eyes were calm and determined. I want to show him what I have become. Are you sure? He might try to take you back to Zephyrian space. Let him try, Lyra said, with a confidence that surprised Jake. I am not the broken person he discarded. I am something new, and I think it is time for him to learn what humans really understand about healing. Jake nodded. Then we will face him together. As they prepared for the meeting with Veltar, Jake realized that their month was almost up. The challenge that had started with an attempt to humiliate humanity was about to reach its conclusion, but the outcome would be nothing like what the Zephyrians had expected. The Zephyrian delegation arrived exactly 1 month after they had left Lyra on New Colorado. High Crystallarch Veltar came with 5 other council members and a full honor guard. Their ship landed in the same spot where they had dumped what they considered a broken, worthless person. The colonists gathered to watch, but they were not the same frightened people who had witnessed Lyra's arrival. Word of the humans' success had spread throughout the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species were now present to observe the outcome of the challenge. Jake stood in the center of the landing pad, with Lyra beside him. She looked completely different from the broken woman who had been abandoned here a month ago. Her crystal formations glowed with new patterns that shifted between traditional Zephyrian geometry and flowing human-inspired curves. Her purple eyes were bright with confidence and purpose. Where is our ruined citizen? Veltar demanded as he stepped off his ship. Where is the broken one you were supposed to fix? I am here, Lyra said, stepping forward. Veltar stopped walking. His crystalline features showed shock and confusion. This could not be the same person they had left behind. Impossible, whispered Zixnith, the council member who had been most cruel to Lyra during their first visit. Her crystal matrix was completely destroyed. It was, Lyra agreed calmly. And now it is something better. Dr. Carter stepped forward with her medical scanner. Would you like to see the data? She asked Veltar. Her biocrystalline formations are now 30% more efficient than the original patterns. Her telepathic range has doubled, and she can interface with technologies that no pure Zephyrian can access. Veltar looked at the scanner readings with growing alarm. This is not repair, this is contamination. You have polluted her with your primitive technology. I asked them to help me, Lyra said firmly, and they gave me something my own people never could. Hope. You were useless, Veltar snapped. Damaged beyond recovery. We brought you here to prove that humans are as worthless as we believed. And, instead, said a new voice, you have proven the opposite. Everyone turned to see Quendal, the youngest member of the Zephyrian Council, stepping forward. Unlike the others, he did not look angry or confused. He looked amazed. Council member, Quendal, Veltar warned. Remember your place. My place is to seek truth, Quendal replied. And the truth is that these humans have achieved something our greatest healers declared impossible. Lyra moved to the center of the plaza, where her crystal formation was still set up from the previous evening's demonstration. Let me show you what I have learned, she said. She began to create a crystal song, but this one was different from anything she had made before. The crystals responded not just to her telepathic commands, but to the technological enhancements that Jake and his team had built. The song that emerged was beautiful beyond description. It carried the mathematical precision that Zephyrians loved, but it also had the emotional depth and creative chaos that humans brought to their art. Most remarkably, it spoke to every species present in their own emotional language. The Altarians felt the silver harmony of their homeworld. The Calarians experienced the logical satisfaction of perfect engineering. The humans felt the warmth of community and the excitement of discovery. And the Zephyrians felt something they had not experienced in centuries, the joy of seeing their traditions grow and evolve instead of merely being preserved. "How is this possible?" asked another council member. "She is reaching minds that cannot be reached telepathically." "The neural bridge allows me to understand how different minds work," Lyra explained. "Human technology taught me that communication is not about forcing thoughts into someone else's head. It is about finding the right frequency to reach their heart." Jake watched Veltar's face as the truth became clear. The High Crystallarch had expected to find a failed experiment that would prove human inferiority. Instead, he was facing evidence that human methods were not just different but potentially superior. "This changes nothing," Veltar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "You may have repaired the damage, but at what cost? She is no longer truly Zephyrian." "You are right," Lyra said. "I am no longer the person I was before. But that person was limited by your rules about what was acceptable and what was not." She gestured to the other patients who had come seeking help. Kex with his newly evolved silver skin, Thorn with his repaired cybernetics, Zara, the other Zephyrian, whose defective crystals had been transformed into something unique and beautiful. These people were all discarded by their societies, Lyra continued, declared worthless because they did not fit the perfect standards. But Jake and his team saw potential where others saw only failure. "We gave you an impossible challenge," Zixnith said slowly. "We expected you to fail and prove your inferiority. And instead," Jake said, "you gave us an opportunity to prove something else entirely." "Which is?" Veltar demanded. "That healing is not about restoring someone to their original state," Jake replied. "It is about helping them become the best version of themselves they can be." The assembled representatives from other species began to murmur among themselves. The implications of what they had witnessed were staggering. "If humans can enhance biological systems this way," said the Calarian researcher, "imagine what could be accomplished through cooperation between our species. My government will want to establish formal medical exchange programs," added the Altarian ambassador. Veltar realized that his plan had backfired completely. Instead of humiliating humanity, he had inadvertently showcased their unique abilities to the entire galaxy. But the most shocking moment came when Lyra addressed the Zephyrian Council directly. "I have a proposal," she said, her enhanced telepathic abilities allowing her to project her thoughts clearly into every Zephyrian mind present. "You came here believing that humans are inferior. But what if you are looking at it backwards? What if the reason you have remained unchanged for millennia is not because you are perfect, but because you are afraid to grow?" The telepathic message hit the Zephyrian delegation like a physical blow. None of them had ever considered that their rigid perfection might actually be a weakness. "Humans do not seek perfection," Lyra continued. "They seek improvement. They embrace change and adapt to challenges. That is why they were able to help me when you could not." Young Quendal spoke up. "Perhaps we have been too focused on maintaining what we are, instead of exploring what we could become." "Heresy," Veltar whispered, but even he was beginning to doubt. Lyra walked directly to the High Crystallarch. "You wanted to test human abilities. You have your answer. But now I offer you a different test. Are you brave enough to learn from them?" The plaza fell silent. Everyone waited to see how Veltar would respond. Finally, the High Crystallarch spoke. "What do you propose?" "A true exchange," Lyra said. "Humans can learn from Zephyrian science and artistry. Zephyrians can learn from human adaptability and innovation. Together we might achieve things that neither species could accomplish alone." Jake stepped forward. "We would be honored to work with your people," he said. "Not as superiors or inferiors, but as equals seeking to help each other grow." Veltar looked around at the assembled representatives from across the galaxy. He saw the hope in their faces, the excitement about the possibilities that human-led cooperation could bring. "Very well," he said finally. "But understand this. If we agree to this exchange, everything changes. The old ways of measuring worth and value must be reconsidered." "Change can be scary," Jake agreed, "but it can also be wonderful." 6 months later, New Colorado had been transformed into the galaxy's first interspecies medical and research center. Jake found himself at the head of a team that included scientists from dozens of different worlds. Lyra had become something unprecedented, an ambassador between species who could literally help different minds understand each other. Her hybrid abilities made her uniquely qualified to bridge the gaps between various forms of consciousness. The neural bridge technology had been adapted for dozens of other species, always with the same philosophy: not to fix people by making them conform to some ideal, but to help them become the best possible version of themselves. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Zephyrians had not challenged us?" Lyra asked Jake one evening as they watched the sunset over their bustling new medical center. "I think someone else would have given us the opportunity eventually," Jake replied. "Humans have always been good at seeing potential where others see problems. And now the whole galaxy is learning to think that way." Jake smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe they are just learning that being different is not the same as being broken." Lyra nodded, her hybrid crystal formations glowing softly in the evening light. The Zephyrians wanted to shock the galaxy by proving human inferiority. Instead, they shocked everyone by proving the opposite. "Sometimes," Jake said, "the best way to learn about yourself is to try to help someone else." As the stars came out over New Colorado, beings from across the galaxy worked together in the medical center below. The challenge that had begun with cruelty and prejudice had transformed into something beautiful, a new era of cooperation based on the radical human idea that everyone deserved a chance to heal and grow. The Zephyrians had indeed created a shocking outcome, just not the